Hello and welcome to episode 73 of the Dash Force Free Amigos podcast. I'm Mark Mason and I'm joined by my fellow host, Joel Valenzuela. How are you, Joel?
Hey, what's up?
And today we've got two very, very special guests. These guys, they've done so much for the Dash community already. So we've got so much to talk about. Welcome to the podcast, Stephen and Derrick of AnyPay.
Happy to see you again.
Yeah, hey, Mark, Joel. Thanks for having us.
Right, first things first, what's going on with the background? Where are you right now?
We're in Portsmouth, New Hampshire at what we call Crypto Village in the Blockchain Institute of Technology.
Blockchain Institute of Technology. Oh, so is this like a meetup room? Is that what it's for? And
we host meetups. Last night there was a special event here, packed the place for what was called Bitcoin Heretics. People can look that up. We host Bitcoin meetups, and this is more or less AnyPay headquarters as well.
Yes, right where these gentlemen were standing is where Dr. Darren Tapp gave his presentation on the Dash scaling paper when it was released.
Oh, excellent. Because you guys live in close proximity to each other, right? So you've got history, you all know each other.
It takes a village. Bitcoin village.
That's right. I love hanging out with Darren Tapp here in Portsmouth. And the event last night was awesome. It was about the ideal Bitcoiner, which includes Dash people and it's awesome. We're trying to be the ideal Bitcoiners here ourselves.
Right. Okay, that's an interesting concept. So I don't know anything about what happened last night. I saw Vin Armani tweet something out, so I think he might have been there. So
yeah, he was there.
So everyone got together and they were just talking about what Bitcoin should be or what you would like it to be. Is that the concept?
Not what Bitcoin should be, but what the ideal Bitcoin user should do. What is the ideal? And I think that you're the ideal Bitcoin user when you're using Bitcoin or when you're using cryptocurrency. And so there are three really awesome people: Vin Armani, Daniel Krawitz, and Krista Rose came and had a conversation, and there was a large audience, standing room only. So we have a really exciting space here, and this is kind of the center of the Dash, the world in the Seacoast area. And there are other hotspots of Dash in the New England area that we have helped significantly to grow. And then, but people were coming in from all over America for this event. Pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Can we talk about the car? Because, I mean, that was the biggest news of last week, without a shadow of a doubt. We got onto Forbes, baby. So if you've been living under a rock, Derrick and Stephen managed to get Auto Fair, a car dealership in New Hampshire, to accept Dash. And not only that, Derrick actually purchased the car with Dash as well, which might be the biggest purchase in Dash for goods and services to date. How did that come about?
Wow. Do you want to start?
Yeah, so that came about because we have a vision of spending Dash everywhere we go, and not just for us, but for anyone in the world. And so this summer, we made our first Dash proposal, describing our vision of using Dash for cars and hotels and rent and your gym and every place you go. And we were able to get with some awesome salespeople, one of which ended up getting a position at this auto dealer, and he's activated a number of businesses with Dash through our ambassador program, which is a whole other awesome thing where we pay people to set up businesses with Dash. And that's great. And then he worked very hard at this auto dealer, working with us to help them understand the process of how they will accept Dash in exchange for a car, and then how they will then get fiat because they have to pay bills, and keep a portion of the Dash. And so we work with them and finally said, we're going to buy a car. Derrick needs a car.
Yeah, that's the nuts and bolts and the in detail of how it happened. But in one sentence, it was, we offered to buy a car, and they were like, okay, how do we take your money? Okay, we want to use Dash. Okay, how do we do that? And so one of the managers, set up a wallet, and it's as simple as that. That's all it takes. The same wallet that you're using, the same wallet you've got on your phone. That's the same wallet that the owners of a car dealership would have on their phone, or stored back up somewhere. So then they set up AnyPay so that they can easily take cryptocurrency from a register without anyone having access to the owner's private phone or private funds. And yeah, we just paid an iPad from my phone to an iPad, and then I walked out with the documents saying I own the car.
I love how humble you are about this, because for me, this is like the Bitcoin pizza moment. Except for you actually bought a car. Like, you're the first person to purchase a car with Dash. And there's more to this as well. Like, can you talk about the vanity plates?
To be fair, a friend of ours
dealership
did buy a car partly in Dash just recently. One friend of ours sold a car partly in Dash, and another friend of ours bought it.
Yeah,
But
we're talking
that
about
wasn't a major retailer.
the half Dash, half Bitcoin private sale one, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, I remember that one.
But
People buying cars all over the place.
Our focus is on actual retailers where anyone can walk in, because that's totally different as far as the brand of Dash. If the public can go and use Dash and not have to make special arrangements or private sales, then it's way more legitimate. And now people, like, it used to be people would say, oh, what can you buy with Dash? And we would say, this or that restaurant or that this retailer, this shop. But now, and they say, well, I don't need to go to restaurants very much, so I don't need to accept it at my business. But now we can say, oh, well, you can buy a car. And now some of these businesses locally who have been receiving tens of Dash perhaps over the last year, now they actually can buy something super tangible and real and expensive. And so that's awesome.
And will there be a vanity plate on it?
Yeah, I've already registered it as Dash Car.
Woo!
So I don't have a picture of it yet because it hasn't come in the mail. But yes,
that'll go all over the internet as soon as it does. The new CTO of the core team, Bob Carroll, who used to, I believe, work at Microsoft and a few others before his current tenure at Dash, got so excited that he shared that article out, and it says, like, when people ask, oh, well, what can you buy with it? I'll just say cars. So
yeah, it's a great answer.
All over seeing that, it's like, if as long as you can buy a cup of coffee and a car with it, what else do you need?
Well, it lends a lot of legitimacy. All I want to know is who's next.
Great question.
Go buy a car. You've got Dash. If you're watching this, go buy a car in New Hampshire.
Might take y'all up on that.
So I've witnessed this firsthand in Portsmouth when I came to visit you guys, and all the businesses were all using AnyPay. So I believe Stephen's given me kind of a masterclass before, but you've really perfected your approach to actually onboarding businesses. So Stephen, could you just talk through your experience of actually engaging with businesses? Because there'll be many people watching this thinking, I want my local businesses to accept Dash, but they don't know how to go about asking the right questions or going to write about it. What is the Stephen masterclass approach?
It's important to understand a merchant only wants that's more customers. They don't care about anything else. They want more customers because that's why they're in business. They make money when they make more sales. So I help them understand that they will get more customers if they accept Dash, because it's true. Because I'm going to be going there more often, and my friends are going to be going there more often, and so that's the most important thing. You have to think about what the merchant wants, and always frame it that way. They don't care about technology, so forget about this is like they don't care about fees. So don't bring up fees. Just forget about fees. Like, don't say,
really? Interesting.
Don't say credit cards have 2% fee, Dash has 0.
They're used to it. They just accept it as part of doing business. There's going to be fees, and they're okay with that. It doesn't bother them.
And plus, like, fees generally are boring, and you don't want to say anything boring. You want to say that there are all these people who are exciting and interesting and sophisticated, and they're looking for places to spend this new kind of money, and they want to bring it here, and it's easy and fun to set up, and it's stupid simple, so your employees don't even need any training. So once you have it set up, no training, they want it to be easy for them, and they want more customers.
Excellent. So would it be fair to say, in terms of AnyPay, it's better to focus on the independent businesses, right? If people want to do outreach and promote AnyPay in wherever they are in the world.
Yeah, anywhere. If you can talk to a business owner, that's the person you want to talk to.
Okay.
Yeah, do
Well,
you have
and
any
then
tips
so-
on actually reaching the
as far-
business?
What?
So that,
Go ahead, Joel.
Do you have any tips on actually reaching the business owner? So they're not always sitting there behind the counter.
Yeah, definitely ask when are they normally in. Ask for their email address. The email is really how business owners want to operate because it's asynchronous. You don't have to coordinate with them, and they can do it at their own time. So getting their email address is very good. And if they're not in there, then there's a less chance that you're going to get them to do it. So choose businesses where the business owner is more involved, and you're going to have a much higher success rate.
And another
Makes
good
sense.
tip is to be a customer. Be someone that they see a lot, and you'll have credibility with them just because of that. If you walk into a place you've never been before and you don't intend on going back again, why should they do anything for you? That's out of the ordinary.
Of course.
And not only being a customer, but be part of their community. Care about them as a person, not just on a transactional level. And it's easy to know a thing or two about a person and find out, how's your family doing or what are you doing this weekend? Something just normal and real.
but like you're concerned as a customer, saying like, I want to support your business, I want to spend, but can you accept Dash? And it's not just me, other people, will increase your foot traffic into the business. But one thing I do want to ask you guys about, and I should have really asked you off camera first, but put you on the spot now. Don't panic. It would be unfair just to say that you guys have been working so hard in Portsmouth and onboarding businesses. I learned last week that on my side of the pond, there's a pub in Bristol now using AnyPay. How did that come about?
Well, that's awesome. That came about from some guys who are making a movie about Dash and Bitcoin, the Beyond Bitcoin film. They came to New Hampshire and were inspired, and they wanted to use Dash in their place. And we often have to push people hard to set this up, but eventually we got together, we set up AnyPay, and they taught the business owner how to do it. And then Derrick scheduled a meetup. He was like, they weren't going, so he just said, hey, he actually created a meetup in Bristol and then scheduled it, and then people started coming and using Dash.
Yeah, if you're in the Bristol area, it's every Monday at 9 at Mr. Wolf's.
Nice.
I might have to jump on a train at some point and check that out.
Well, your question was, should we be targeting independent small businesses or larger businesses? And with our ambassador program that we have built and are building more, and we aim to expand this significantly, individuals can go to small businesses and activate them, and they get rewarded first with a sum of Dash when they activate the business. And our plan in the future is to also give these ambassadors a small share of all of the payments up to a certain amount, so that they now have an incentive to drive customers to the business. And what we want to do is align economic incentives for people who are activating. It's not going to work if people are only going out of the goodness of their heart, or even probably, it might work if there are a ton of people who really want to use Dash, but they need financing. So we're looking to expand and make even better our ambassador program.
Plus, you don't want to hear, oh, yeah, we tried that, we don't take it anymore. That's the worst thing to hear. It just gets you in the gut. And the way to avoid that is to drive customers to the places that are willing to accept Dash. So
yeah, and
do your part to be a customer and bring others.
And sometimes just looking around the area, I see a whole lot of Dash accepting businesses, and a lot of them are just not something that I'm typically interested in. And I just kind of worry, like, what if I'm not there spending stuff? Are they gonna lapse? And then just the other day, we went to the vape shop, which I'm not a vapor, but to get some CBD in order to help with some injury related stuff and sleeping problems. And just, hey, see you take Dash. They're like, yep. And then paid in Dash, and It's great. Just it's great to see something that, like, I don't know who would be frequenting that shop, but clearly enough people to keep them on board. And now that I know we can get CBD type stuff there, why not?
The one thing that we've encountered that beyond people not coming and using crypto that has caused a business to stop is that the business owner doesn't understand how to use it as money. Or so if you don't teach them how to buy something or how to get value out of the Dash, they are not going to want it eventually. And so I've made a mistake where I basically just set them up with Dash and like a hardware wallet and didn't really teach them how to use it. And now they have all this Dash in a hardware wallet, but they don't want any more because it seems like they are just giving away free services.
Merchandise, yeah, and services. It is kind of interesting because that tends to be the biggest next step question is, well, what do I do with it now that I get it? Because, for example, when you say, oh, you get more customers, well, people want more customers. Businesses want more customers because that means they get more money. And if they start getting more not money and they're still losing stuff that they had to pay money to provide, unless it gets them more fiat paying customers, they're not going to care really, right? So what do you kind of tell merchants that they can do with it? Like, for example, right here around Portsmouth.
Well, I made these flyers and they talk about Dash back, but I put them at all businesses that accept Dash. And so these are as much for the customers to be exposed to the concept of paying with cryptocurrency and especially Dash and the program of Dash back, but there is just as much for the business owners themselves. And so they have the businesses listed here. And if you're the owner of the Fresh Press, for example, now you know that all the Dash you've been taking for your salads and juices, you can turn into tickets to a concert, at the Seacoast Repertory Theater, or you could go stretch out with do some Bikram yoga. You could take it to a restaurant and turn it into your meal. So business to business is a really good thing to do with Dash once you've created a community of people who use it and businesses that accept it.
Yeah, now the hard part doesn't seem necessarily getting them money that then they can spend on things they personally want. It seems to be getting them money that then they can spend on things they need in order to keep the lights on. And so that's been the biggest thing I've been sort of thinking of. I know obviously BitRefill gets a 10% off of Amazon gift cards. You could buy just about anything off of Amazon. That's a big one. But what are the biggest things that you have that you've been able to tell businesses they can do with their Dash profits to then keep the business running?
Well, that is the number one thing. And being able to purchase things on Amazon is the most important for anyone. It really does convince a lot of people. But for some businesses that are close by, will buy the Dash. And it has happened only a few times that a business wanted to sell their Dash. And most other businesses tell me that they're either keeping it for the long term because they see it as a great investment, or they've spent it. And for instance, the yoga studio that we go to all the time has a number of Dash customers, and they used all of their Dash recently to buy all new refurbishing for their studio, new rugs and other things online. And that was awesome. I was so happy to hear that.
Do you know?
I don't know, but they started taking Dash when the price was rather low, and and so that, I think it turned out to be very good for them.
Yes.
And then alternatively, they're independent businesses, but we very much want to and need to invest in going after a next level of businesses, and that being actual chains and corporate businesses, at least in our area to begin with. And this is a whole new class of business that requires a new set of attention and different ways of accounting for receiving Dash and different ways of using it and adopting. And that's the next big challenge where we have to bring on more internal employees to head that effort, because it's more of an organized effort that's going to happen, as well as the ambassador program, which is awesome. And I love the long tail of the ambassador program, where anyone can go out and activate some merchants and start using Dash locally and get a bonus for that.
How do you go? Because I mean, that's the big problem we've got in the UK. We have many franchises, and they can't really just switch out their POS solutions. So onboarding these chains, like these big coffee shop chains and things like this, they already have a big POS solution integrated. So I'm assuming you kind of have to kind of develop a module to integrate into these things. But then hopefully that'll be universal across the board, because it's kind of like just going to the head of the snake, isn't it? Because if you can land one of those, it opens yourselves up to potentially thousands of businesses just by integrating. Is that the plan?
Well, that's the idea. There's multiple levels. So there's integration. We have to work with retail point of sale systems to make it easy for them to accept Dash. And to speed up the process and to automatically go into their accounting system, whether that's QuickBooks or other accounting. So none of that has been developed by any Dash system so far. And we're very excited that we will develop this in time. And otherwise, this is uncharted territory for us, but our guy who got AutoFair, the largest car dealership in New Hampshire, is very great, and so he's going to help us and probably bring on someone else who understands how to develop these kind of integrations within corporations. But it's a lot of like flow diagrams, and it's going to be a lot of understanding what their pains are and what objections they have, and learning from a number of dozens of different medium-sized companies what it's going to take to get Dash in, because I think no one really understands, or a few people understand, their needs. So it'll be a long period of meeting with these people and discussing their needs. But ultimately, we have to get Dash into these businesses, or else it's not going to work out.
This is really exciting to hear. So it's not just about on your doorstep. You are thinking globally as well. Where we're seeing Dash becoming the rising rock star is in Venezuela right now. And we're having a lot of activity on Discover Dash, just over 2,000 merchants now in the past week. So like, what have you guys got any plans for Venezuela? I mean, like, because like you want to help the people the most that need cryptocurrency. So I know you guys must have something up your sleeve. What do you got cooking?
Well, of course we have plans for Venezuela. It's so exciting. And well, first of all, it's super depressing. Yeah, like it's just awful what's going on there, and the fact of socialism playing out right in front of our eyes, like toward the end of a collapsing economy. It's just
yes, which I'd like to interject with my shirt.
Oh, one sec.
Picture of an AK-47 saying the only thing communism ever got right.
Okay.
Yeah, and so but everyone's focused on Venezuela, and that's awesome. First to note, I think New England and Venezuela are close on daily transactions of Dash, so we're neck and neck. But though it's all still in the very beginning stages, and our mission is to roll out the Dash Back program to Venezuela. So the big problem, and I've been speaking with the Venezuelan people, after our first proposal, we used funds to develop support for Venezuelan currency so that they can denominate prices correctly, as well as adding language support for Spanish and getting ready for functional ability for the app to work in Venezuela, right? And now they have all these merchants, but no demand, because no one has Dash in Venezuela except for the dashers who are down there setting up these merchants and going around and using it. So I believe strongly that Dash can be served best by injecting Dash into the Venezuelan economy through the Dash Back program that we've developed over the last few months. So we developed it first, then we got some funding for more of a proof of concept, and it's been working great. And we want to roll this out to different areas around the globe so that the people working in Venezuela can create incentives for spending, and have a way of getting Dash into the hands of local Venezuelan people in a sustainable way that doesn't pay. It's not wasted. It's basically, for people who don't know, Dashback is when you shop with Dash, you get Dash instantly back into your wallet. And it's a great promotion. People love it. In Venezuela, they especially need Dashback because they don't have very much money, and they especially don't have very much Dash. And a lot of giveaway programs are ineffective because they detach there's no good incentive structure. But with Dashback, you can only get the money if you actually use Dash at a verified business.
Yeah, it's a nice kickback, positive feedback loop, right?
Right. And so what we've developed here in New Hampshire as our first proof of concept with Dashback has been a little bit manual in activating and verifying merchants. But what we aim to build is the ability to let people in Venezuela determine which merchants will be able to receive Dashback, and even set different bonuses for different businesses so that they can try, and it's like a tool for driving demand through Dashback incentives. And they're asking us for this now. They have activated 200 people with Dash wallets, or 2,000, sorry, and they're all using one way of accepting Dash, one piece of software. And that's worked well so far, but there's no incentive type structure built in. And so they're asking now to start upgrading now that AnyPay is ready to be supported in Venezuela. And so we're aiming to build tools for them in Venezuela specifically to provide incentives.
Wow, I mean, how does that make you feel? Because in Venezuela, we've already seen Papa John's, Subway. There's a chicken brand that I can't mention, but I mean, you can have AnyPay essentially in these places. That must be quite a nice feeling.
It is, and we don't want to step on the toes of all the amazing work that they've done already, getting Dash Wallet. I think they're doing Dash Wallet often.
Yeah, that's the biggest. The hardest work has been done in talking to these people and telling them about Dash, getting the businesses to accept it. Now the next step is to incentivize the use. So by rewarding people for using Dash at these businesses, it's going to create a positive feedback loop of returning customers and them telling their friends and driving more business to these places that are taking Dash. And then the other businesses that don't yet take Dash are like, whoa, what's going on over there? We need to do that too. So all Dash Venezuela.
So how does it feel? It feels very awesome and exciting. And I can't believe that we are in this position to help people in Venezuela in this way. And it's so cool. I'm hesitant. I don't want to I want to make sure and honor everything that's been done and the people who have provided the tools so far. Though humbly, we believe that AnyPay is the best. Very simple. I'm looking forward to trialing AnyPay in a few places and working with people there and see what they think. See if we can get the Dashback right, and then it could be out in thousands of businesses by this time next year.
It's actually a really great way to use the treasury system for this Dashback program, because it's very cost effective for us in the Western world to push adoption in Venezuela. And there aren't any really top cryptocurrency projects that can kind of replicate this or have the functionality to offer this kind of solution.
Well, that is true for the time being, but the AnyPay is a platform that supports multiple currencies, and other projects. And I think there's room for all the cryptos to use our platform, because like there's just so many people out there who need digital cash. But they want to, like Zencash wants to offer 100% back in some places. And we hope that Dash was first, and we love Dash. So we want to keep going and grow Dash in more regions. And but yeah, it's great.
It should really be up to the community of whatever they want to do. Dashback started as donation based, so anyone can donate to the fund of Dashback to keep it active and keep people receiving Dashback. And if the Dash community decides, you know, hey, we want it to be 50% or 100% here or in this location, like all of that can be done and paid for by anyone in the world totally anonymously. Like, hey, I want to support Venezuela.
And we're building the software platform that can enable the people in Venezuela and other regions to create Dash-back incentives. And so we develop software like pretty well. Like there's so few people who really do software. And so that's what we want to do so we can scale this Dash-back program and give like the team in Venezuela the ability to put in their own funds if they want into the Dash-back and determine where it's going to go. And then we can have a team in Ghana doing the same thing. You know, they can ask for a proposal and say, we want 100 Dash for our Dash-back group. And then they can just go into the tool and put in the money and have it paid out to the merchants that they want. So but we started very manually in getting merchants on and how to allocate the Dash-back, but it's becoming software that the whole Dash team can use, and they're going to be different sub-teams. So that's our vision of what we want to develop to scale this adoption incentive.
Is it okay to talk about technical ability? Because I think you guys have already proven yourself. But Stephen, I hope you won't mind me sharing, but didn't you used to work for Ripple back in the day?
I did, yeah. I was very excited for Ripple. And in fact, the reason I came to Dash is very unusual. For most people did not come the way I came, and we're not interested in the reasons I was. So when I was working at Ripple, I built a number of things. I contributed to some core libraries, and then I built Ripple's first peer-to-peer banking application. And I was the lead dev on that, and I ended up growing a team of developers and people and passing that along. And then I became very interested in Ripple's version of the master node network. And so the way that Ripple confirms all transactions is a lot like instant send, but it's mandatory. It's instant send only, basically. And what the challenge was that my team was working on was decentralizing the system. In Dash is pretty decentralized as far as the master node network goes. There are a number of thousands of nodes, if I'm not mistaken. And although we don't know exactly how many people own those nodes, and there's some estimates, when we started out in the Ripple world, there were like 10 nodes, and 5 of them were owned by one company. Yeah. And the other ones were just enthusiasts, you know. And we ran into, I always wanted to pay people to run the validating nodes. A lot, just dividends, exactly like they do in Dash. And I wanted that, and that's not how they want to play in Ripple. And so we created some awesome tools for helping understand the consensus process. But ultimately, I discovered the instant send feature of Dash, and then the way that the Dash master nodes get consensus on instant send and how they lock transactions. And that was awesome. And I said, you know, this solves the confirmation time problem, and it solves the incentives for nodes, which were great. And so then I got really interested in Dash.
So basically, it was what you were working on Ripple, except decentralized and actually incentivized.
That's right. And then so after I left Ripple to start AnyPay, and I initially built it for Ripple because I was really into Ripple. It's an awesome technology. Just it's good, and it's good people too. Even though
this is interesting because like
different customer base.
I've always wondered what the history was behind AnyPay. What was the spark that created the idea? So you kind of had this idea in your head when you was at Ripple, but you just thought, actually, you know, you're blockchain agnostic, you're a fan of cryptocurrency, you want to push alternative currencies, you want to help the space, and you just thought, right, I just need to go about this in a decentralized way that's going to help everyone really push this movement forward.
Yeah, but there's no XRP users who are trying to use it as cash. And there's tons of people in the Dash world who are like, it's digital cash, baby, let's use it.
Some people are going to push back on that, but I'm not going to disagree with that sentiment.
That's totally right. You know, my original vision, and I used to talk about this, was that anyone could use like digital gold or digital silver, some like tokenized representation, and pay anywhere, and it would convert to whatever currency the merchant wants to have. So our ultimate goal is that anyone in the world can use any type of digital cash, their favorite digital cash, anywhere Visa is accepted, essentially, and it converts to whatever the business wants.
This is amazing. So
and
merchant adoption, Dash back. Now you're looking at next level, integrating with chains. You're essentially scaling right now.
That's what we're hoping to do. You know, there are a lot of challenges with scaling. There's growing our organization, which we now have a handful of developers as well as ambassadors. That's been a challenge for us. And of course, there's financing for scaling and bringing on customers who value what we're doing and value our contribution in growing the use of digital cash. And so it's really our customers who will drive the growth and the scaling of this system, of course. But it's all very exciting. And so I pivoted from Ripple to Dash because Dash was the only coin that anyone wanted to use, even Bitcoin. No one wanted to use it after a while.
Yeah, they wanted to use credit cards instead.
And like the weird thing, and I say this, but like it seems that the perception is Dash is just bad enough that people don't want to hodl it all the time. Like, and I think that's actually a positive thing for Dash because people want to use it. You know, they want to use it, and it's awesome. And so we launched AnyPay with Dash only, and it was all Dash really.
So it's not AnyPay isn't just a business model to you. You actually believe this. You live and breathe this. Derrick, you've got a history as an activist as well, right? You're very popular in the libertarian circuit. You really want to push this movement forward. This isn't just about having a business and making money. You want to make change, right?
Hope and change.
Yeah, I believe that people are free. And one way that people are not free is in the way that they use their money. And they don't even know it in a lot of cases. So if once I discovered cryptocurrency, I was like, wow, this is a way that we can really exercise financial freedom and independence on a personal level, and anyone can do it without permission, and you can start right now. So there's nothing to wait for. The only challenge is like now you've got this digital money, you can spend it anywhere it's accepted, but where is it accepted? So that's where my participation with AnyPay comes in, is helping businesses accept cryptocurrency from people who want to use it, and helping people who want to use cryptocurrency find places where they can spend it, and expanding that until the entire globe is covered in people who are using free money. Not free in the sense that it's free, it comes from nothing, but free in the freedom sense.
Wow. I don't think I could have said that better myself. I think everyone watching this is on the same page as well. And, you know, what you've managed to achieve is just testament of that as well. And me seeing that firsthand, especially in New Hampshire, I haven't experienced that anywhere else in the world. Just to go to Fizzywigs, you know, the cafe, or, you know, the coffee shop, or what was the beer place you took me to, Joel, in Portsmouth?
Was that Liar's Bench?
Liar's Bench, that was the one. Yeah, so like literally it was just AnyPay everywhere, and it was in close proximity, and it felt like a small community. But, you know, I'm guessing for the Masterno network and Dash community within itself, some people can be quite envious, and I'm obviously jealous of New Hampshire. I wish that was like everywhere else in the world. That's why I'm really encouraged and happy to hear you talk about scaling and expanding internationally, and also with a focus on areas that really need it. I know we've already touched on Venezuela, but everyone's talking about the Petro launching next month, and that's going to cause, you know, a bit of upset in that country, because now everyone in that country is going to be educated even more about cryptocurrency. So this is actually really good prime opportunity to make moves and make things happen. How do you feel about that?
Well, I immensely respect the people who are working on Dash, and we have the same mission. And so the fact that they're focused on specific markets like Venezuela is awesome, and I want to support that. And that's the fastest way to grow. I want to say that we didn't want this to be a business. That wasn't our mission, really. I wanted to use Dash everywhere, and so I made this software and started getting it out there. Then I realized the only way to be able to use it everywhere was to create financial incentive to make it happen. And like, we have to create new Dash users, and we have to build an incredible amount of tools and software and automation and connecting with accounting. And so then we decided to make a business, and it makes total sense because we can serve Dash's goals in Venezuela and other places and use it to grow what we're doing and be able to use Dash more where I live. And so basically, the more people we can help in the world, the more I can achieve my goal of using Dash all the time. And so that's why I love there's teams in Dash. They're just really on top of it relative to other projects.
Joel, this sounds really promising, but that's not what Jimmy said this week, right? Because he wanted to use his credit cards. Do you just want to give the backstory on that?
Yeah, I started talking about our good old buddy Jimmy Song. It's one of those people that just pops up on Twitter, and I know he's a Bitcoin maximalist because he wears a funny hat. And he, it's always true. There's always some hat involved. It's like proof of hat. It's the new validation algorithm. But he said something about, yeah, there's a bunch of people who've said something similar about don't use Bitcoin for purchases. Use something else. Who are in the Bitcoin, the BTC, Bitcoin Core group kind of collective. And so this is just another one of those people who just said, no, don't use Bitcoin, use credit cards, and then when the bill comes, sell some Bitcoin to pay that. And it's like, well, how does Bitcoin have any value if the only thing it's for is to just sell it when you need money?
Well, it has some value that way. It has some value. But Jimmy is boring. That's boring. Yeah.
Where's
Come
the fun
on, get out of here. Just get out. No. And like, it totally ignores it. It's a very privileged thing to say that just go ahead and use your credit card because you're going to be getting all this credit in your Venezuelan village.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. And so the people he's talking to, they are wealthy developers and investors, and they're doing good work. From their perspective, they're contributing to the crypto ecosystem by writing code and teaching rich people about it. And that needs to be done. But Jimmy's wrong. It's not that hard to teach someone to use Dash, and really kind of uncreative and boring from what I can see.
It's kind of interesting, a little bit of a cognitive dissonance there, because here you have the message he's saying isn't that Bitcoin sucks. The message he's saying is it doesn't make sense for people in the first world to use it. It's like, just use traditional payment methods. It's better for you. And the other side of their mouth saying, oh, Venezuelan sucks with hyperinflation, they should use Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to save them. Well, it's like, well, you can't even use it here. How's that going to help them over there?
Yeah.
It's just this weird kind of like, it's like you can't serve two masters. It either works or it doesn't.
Yeah. If your solution's no better than the solution you're trying to replace, you're already obsolete. So it's just insane. Derrick and Stephen, does it concern you that Jimmy Song, being one of the main cheerleaders for the Lightning Network, is making comments like this? I mean, should we be a little bit worried about this? Do you think they've been compromised?
Well, yeah, but keep it coming. I mean, that's if that's your attitude, say what you believe and live by it. And that's what he believes, and those are his principles, and that's the principles of many people. And good, live your principles, whatever they are. And those aren't my principles, and that's not the kind of life I want to live, and that's fine. We can be different. But I'm more satisfied spending Dash, and I feel way more free. I have more financial privacy in using digital cash. I'm honoring the businesses that I visit. And I'm building real relationships with people like that server I mentioned before the shows. I just had lunch with Steven next door, and the server took tips in Dash. And I feel I'm honoring her. And I feel my relationship has grown with my community because I took the time to have a real conversation with another human being about value and giving one value for accepting value. And that's way more real than swiping some card and just moving on with your life. I feel way more satisfaction from using cryptocurrency and using Dash with my neighbors.
Yeah, it's peer-to-peer digital cash, not corporate-run digital cash.
Oh, there's this idea that there's this Bitcoin maximalist out there, and I don't see any of them.
Well, is that why you check the street out there? You're looking to see if the mythical Bitcoin maximalist is walking by.
Yeah,
I mean, you're looking at two of them. So the real Bitcoin maximalist uses any kind of Bitcoin they can to transact as often as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that if that means you want to use Dash or Lightning, good luck, or Zen Cash or Bcash or Litecoin, that's Bitcoin maximalism. Okay, Bitcoin maximalism is trying new coins, new types of Bitcoin, accepting them, finding and connecting with people who also want to do commerce in that technology, because like really all these coins, they're all the same thing almost. Like technically they all use the same hashing functions, the same digital signature algorithms, for the most part all of the same networking technology. And the difference with Dash is that Dash is a marketing machine. Like Dash is this great organization, and everyone's working together. There are teams, and it's all about marketing. And they said, we're going to take a large portion of the financing for this system and spend it on marketing, essentially. And whereas other coins say, we're going to give it all to the operators of the nodes, the mining, and they can do marketing with it. And we'll see if they're good at that. But the awesome thing is that Dash has attracted people who love spending Dash or love spending Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, to participate in their big marketing engine. And so that's why you now see that everyone uses Dash. Like all these people came into Portsmouth from out of town because there was this big blockchain conference this week. It was an awesome conference, by the way, the best. And they weren't all Dash users, but I didn't see anyone using Bitcoin around or Litecoin. They got Dash because it's the easiest and it's what has been marketed the best, and people care about it more.
Yes, I like to expand that term marketing to economic use, varied economic use. Whereas if you got a 100% block reward going to the miners, it's all going to one purpose. If you got like a 10% treasury, it's going to a lot of things. And some of it is direct marketing, like telling people about it and that they should use it and stuff like that. Some of it is to just, varied things like slapping a logo on a plane that flies over. Some of it is to develop a new wallet that wouldn't otherwise be developed, which is my Dash wallet, one of my favorite ones now. Another one is to sponsor integrations to, say, BitGo, the custodial multi-sig platform, to get in other exchanges. Some of it is to do promotional giveaways. Some of it is to build infrastructure. Like I personally think if I were to call AnyPay marketing, I think that would be giving you guys a great disservice to just be like, you only do marketing.
What we really do is too. Drive adoption. Like we're an adoption driving service, and we're the best. We're the best at it. Like if you look at the amount of Dash that we received from the Dash block reward, for the number of merchants and transactions that we've generated, it's so effective compared to a number of other things. And so that's what we are really focusing on. Like the point of sale app that we make is only just like the simplest part of what we do. And it's really our ambassador program, our Dashback program, and all the software that we build around those that can scale. But also it's our inspirational videos and all the great literature we create. And so it's much more than just a POS. And you're right, it's not just marketing because we're building a lot of software, but I don't know. I guess I like marketing. I don't think saying that we're a great marketers is a disservice. That's
that you're only that's it's a lot more
we're not
complicated.
advertising. Like we're creating markets, and
Market creation. How about that?
While we're talking about software, just to get serious for a second, as you're a POS and you accept Bitcoin, have you looked into the Lightning Network? Have you looked into the details of it? Have you looked at the technical aspect? Is it something that you're going to consider integrating, or have you made a decision not to? What are your thoughts on the Lightning Network, or are you just not interested?
Well, we have a blog post from several months ago where we had one technical expert analyze integration of Lightning Network with AnyPay. And people can read that blog post at AnyPay.Global. Up in the top hand corner is a link to the blog. And he gave his conclusions about how it would work, how it could be done, gives an example of how to use it. But why don't you finish this one?
And we created a proof of concept. Yeah, so we were immediately interested. Once all the Lightning hype started happening, we want people to use Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And so we said, and I read all this Lightning stuff. I mean, I was following along the whole time, and I couldn't believe anything anyone was saying. It's so hard to know what is real and who knows what they're talking about. So we said, we're going to invest in a proof of concept with Lightning in AnyPay. And we'll just find out how easy is it, what are the challenges, how is it even going to work? Like basically no one even knows how it's going to work. And it turned out to be a big pain. Like
the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Like the user experience is terrible. And the reason is because they don't even know what they're building. Like with peer-to-peer electronic cash, that's something people can understand. And then we've created this experience that is very much like cash, and it's really easy. And the Lightning is not really easy, and it would require, like for every merchant, it would require that they are running a server. Like you're kidding, right? Like that's not good. We can't have that.
This is really interesting to hear you say, because it's very credible coming from you, having someone that formerly worked at Ripple and is a developer yourself, actually looking to integrate it into your business, and not just because you're not just dismissing it, you actually look to the application of integrating it. But this idea of taking it off chain and having essentially like a side chain, right? Side payments, where essentially it takes everything away from the white paper, because then the miners aren't getting rewarded anymore because it's off chain. And then the liquidity providers, I think the fees then go to the exchanges. So then the people running these nodes are really incentivized by the exchanges, which is kind of like central banking again, right? That's what it kind of sounds like to me.
Well, I believe that the Lightning Network was something that the bankers were already building. Okay. So this was their vision for the future. Their vision didn't include proof of work or peer-to-peer, right? But they knew that eventually they would have to develop a faster clearing system to clear between banks. And essentially Lightning is what they had going. And like Ripple is building a very similar thing to Lightning, but for their banking customers. And so then they said, well, this Bitcoin thing's great. And there's all this developer talent, all this excitement, this amazing brand. We're gonna piggyback on that. And we'll just say, we'll grab all the momentum behind Bitcoin and we'll shoehorn it into what we were doing already. So and none of the people in Bitcoin who are doing the Lightning really seem to care about cash.
So right? You validating the concerns that it's kind of like Blockstream has really kind of hijacked the movement, really, and taken it on, because that's what it kind of. Because I mean, lots of people were saying it, but the problem is with the Lightning Network, no one really seems to understand it. There's not a lot of information out there. There has been a lot of hype, but there's only like less than a handful of merchants that already accept Lightning Network as it is now.
To be fair, it's new, and imagine Bitcoin in the days of, if you compare the schedules of Lightning versus Bitcoin, like it was really hard to use. It was very hard to use Bitcoin, and there weren't very many people. But I have issue with the fact that the Lightning advocates decided to shut down Bitcoin. And I'm glad they failed, because Bitcoin forked off and now it's going and it's continuing on.
There's tons of Bitcoins out there.
Yeah. So Dash and Bitcoin Cash and all of these, it's continuing on. And I'm interested, and maybe we will support Lightning in the future if it becomes a thing. But in the meantime, Dash is going full steam ahead with digital cash, and my preference for the future is where everyone on Earth has some digital cash and can use it anywhere, and they don't need to be properly connected into the Lightning Network so that there's less than 5 hops from me to this merchant, and we're all connected through the right hubs and everything. It's just that, well, you have a Dash transaction output. You can send it to any Dash address in the world, and you just sign it and send it. And no need for all of this complex stuff. And we'll see if the blockchain can't scale. But to artificially limit the supply of blocks is ridiculous.
Well, it sounds like Roger's going to be a happy bunny. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but there was a video that was on YouTube last week between Roger Ver and Charlie Lee, and I believe it was on the blockchain cruise somewhere, and they were talking, and they had a friendly bet, and Roger bet Charlie that in 18 months' time, the Lightning Network won't have 1,000 merchants. So me asking you these questions about Lightning Network, it wasn't necessarily say like, yay, Dash, boo, Lightning Network. It's because as you're a POS solution, if you're having problems with the Lightning Network, it looks like Roger might be, I mean, I think 18 months is still pushing a little bit. If he said 12 months, might have been a bit more credible. I mean, how do you feel about that bet in itself? Are you familiar with this?
Oh, Charlie Lee is boring. It's just, it's all boring. But I'm familiar with this, and I think it's great. I love competition. What I would love to see is a prediction market, some betting, some real betting, because to go kind of off topic, the Augur prediction market would allow people to, like, it would allow me to bet against Bitcoin Cash, for instance, and then go out and set up a bunch of Lightning nodes and get all the money. So I think that's really cool, and we should look into that with Dash about like how do we prove the haters wrong by telling them put your money where your mouth is and then taking it all. But I'm curious to ask you guys, what do you think? Like, Roger Ver is very interested in promoting Bitcoin Cash, and he actually is not interested in promoting Dash. So I guess he believes that there's going to be one coin to rule them all. And I don't necessarily believe that. But what do you think about Bitcoin Cash having success? What does that mean for Dash?
Yeah, so I could go first on that one. First off, we can't know what people's inner thoughts and motivations are. We can only make assumptions based on what we know. And I found, and Roger's been on, he hasn't been on this show, but he has been on this channel before. I've interviewed him before. I find him to be a linear thinking person. That was one of the reasons why he got involved in Bitcoin to begin with, is because he was just, I hate violence. I want people to be free. I want freedom in all ways. And then he hears on Free Talk Live, our buddy Ian Freeman in his show, he hears on Free Talk Live talking about this free currency, this currency of a free person, and he looks into it, and then he just says, "This is great. I'm all about this." Just that linear. Bitcoin's amazing. You can free the world. I'm just all about this thing called BTC, and so he's just focused on that, and then that has problems, and of course, it gets artificially limited, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then he just focused on Bitcoin used to be great. Why can't it be great again? I gotta help it. And then when there's a split, which to my knowledge, he had no involvement in, or he had no take on it for a little while. Like I seem to remember him getting into Bitcoin Cash after the fact, after a month or so after. And then since then, this is the thing that I fell in love with in the beginning. I'm focused on getting this to work. It's just more of a, the horse has the blinders on so it can focus on the race. He's just focusing on the race. He's focusing on the thing. So I think that's probably why he's like It's not like, well, what is Dash? Is it basically what I was looking for? Oh, is it like this but better? But what about this concept? Just not too much like, I'm gonna see where I'm going. Just no, I'm too busy trying to win this race. And so
That's fair.
that's probably what I think. And there is a little bit, I would say I'm like a 70 to 80% Roger Ver, because I'm kind of a little bit blinders on with Dash. Not blinders on, not blind, but I'm kind of blurry vision out to the side and focused on what I know to be pretty cool. But it's like if something comes out of left field and is like, oh wait, that's way better. This, I would not have a problem with changing. But that's the thing, is the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing is what I'm doing. And what would it mean if Bitcoin Cash won instead of Dash? That would have to mean in some way it was better. And I don't mean that it's the network's better, more decentralized. The network works better, transacts better, does whatever else. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It could mean because as a peer-to-peer decentralized system, its users and its use make the product, right? You could have like Visa. Visa could have all their servers, all their companies, everything just like running, and then people can use it or not. But plugging fans and users and stuff into something like Bitcoin or something like Dash makes it what it is. And so it could be that all of a sudden, like the Bitcoin world or the people who care about this kind of, or the potential future Bitcoiners all end up feeding in and making this glorious Bitcoin Cash ecosystem that as a whole is way better than Dash. And then that's what wins out. That's what it would tell me if that happened.
I would rather go to a shop and see at the counter, I accept Dash, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, rather than seeing Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Apple Pay. I think it would be very disingenuous and naive for me to say there will only be one coin out of this. I have a huge amount of respect for Roger. I don't even think we would be where we're at today without Roger's, how I can understand his position, why he would believe that. Ultimately, Bitcoin Cash, I'm very happy that they fought off and they're doing their own experiment, because we all stand to gain by learning from each other. We all believe in the free market, right? And if we're going to have a free market, we can't just have one solution. We all benefit and learn from each other. And we're in a transitional phase.
In other words, even freedom, bro.
I don't think, we're going to click our fingers and just see there's going to be one solution. This is going to take years to play out. I hope, the adoption takes on, but really it's about ease of use. If you told me, you could go into the future and you said like next year, it's just Bitcoin Cash, there's nothing else, that would worry me, because right now, in their current state, they have no, self-funding or decentralized governance voting mechanism. And that would concern me, because where, without getting too dirty and airing the dirty laundry, there's talks of Bitcoin Cash forking off again, because they're falling victim to the same issues that they've kind of inherited along the line, because where they don't have that way to reach consensus, community-led consensus in the same fashion, that's having big problems. And also from a funding point of view, if you're dependent on donations or third-party funders or just funding from leaders, you're going to run short. It's a bit like socialism, like you just borrowed other people's money, and, until you run out, and you're kind of missing the elephant in the room. However, Bitcoin Cash, if they're going out and they're helping to onboard businesses, just like AnyPay, right? So you guys support other cryptocurrencies. If you onboard businesses, it's good for Dash, because if we really do have the best solution, which what we want to do, then whether it's with the speed, the fees, Dashback, it's actually the functionality of what we offer. We need that. And if someone else does step up their game, guess what? It makes us step up and become better as well. So I hope that's
one coinerness. One coinerness is what got us into the mess. Is just everyone saying, well, let's just focus on this one chain, this one exact approach, and only that. And there were issues with that, and then now people are sort of scrambling to figure out the next thing, and that's kind of what I've kind of actually seen. And of course, I was in New Hampshire, living all off of Bitcoin BTC, having the time of my life, and then when it stopped working, it didn't just stop working for me. it stopped working for a lot of people. And I do remember there was a meeting. I can't remember who all was there. So if you guys were there, I'm sorry if I exclude you by omission, but there was a meeting of all the local crypto folks in they came out to Manchester. We're talking about what's the coin we're going to use now, because we kind of can't use this right now. And so it was sort of a 40% Ethereum, 60% Dash was sort of, because there's no Bitcoin Cash back then. It was, but people were into Ethereum because it was just number 2 right down the list. Oh, well, let's just try to use that. And I remember some people were trying to, I set up this merchant with Ethereum. I'm like, I mean, it sounds a little bit more dumb these days than it did back then. It sounded a little bit more like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Why not use Ethereum? It's number 2. It's got cheap fees, or, before everything happened the way it happened. And so then there's people saying like, oh, well, what about Litecoin? Can we just do Litecoin? Because it's always been old trusty there. I don't think anyone considered Dogecoin at that point. I think that the dog days were over. But people were saying, first we can't do BTC, so there's Dash, there's Litecoin, there's Ethereum. Some people were like, there's Monero, but there weren't really any mobile wallets at all for Monero at that point, so that couldn't work. And they're like, well, what can we do? And so it just sort of ended up where everyone started using Dash around here, slowly but surely, more and more and more. And then now that's where we are today. And it's funny because I don't think we would have had that problem if there had been a coin maximalist approach to begin with. If people had just, why would you have to switch and have a meeting of what are we going to promote instead? It's like, well, what if you accepted 5 to 10 or so? Let's forget the yes.
Like the way I see it is that you can pay with any coin, and you won't even have to know ahead of time. Like the way I see your wallet, you'll go to pay, and you won't have to ask to pay in Dash. You just say, I want to use cryptocurrency, and then your wallet will determine which ones you can spend. And then because you use Dash all the time, it will just default to Dash. And you don't even need to know if the merchant's going to be getting Dash or if they get Monero or whatever. That's the vision that I see. Like, so
sounds a bit like Ripple-esque. So it's like choosing the cheapest option route to, so whatever,
that's right.
Whatever's the cheapest fee or whatever the point, just select that option.
And not only is Ripple an actual exchange, it's a decentralized exchange, but they've developed this protocol called Interledger for transferring coins from one ledger to another ledger in atomic style payments. And it's awesome. And we are working with them to bring that into AnyPay, so that, like, say someone goes out to set up a business with Zencash, because Zencash is doing the same thing as Dash. They want to get businesses out there. Well, you're going to be able to walk into that business. They might not know anything about Dash. You're going to be able to spend Dash because of the Interledger protocol. And there will be more and more people adopting this protocol in the future. But that's what we want to do is enable you to use Dash, even though Bitcoin Cash is the one setting up AnyPay, or it's Zencash or Zcash or Smart Cash, and whoever's putting the software out there, you're going to get to use Dash. And the same goes. So if you set up a business with Dash, and then someone comes and they have Zencash, well, they can spend the Zencash, and then your favorite merchant's going to receive Dash. And so really, I think reducing the barrier to accepting any form of crypto is most important, because ultimately they're all cryptographically connected, and so has exchanges that will allow instant convertibility between these. And then so the question becomes, which coin is going to be able to drive adoption and drive demand the most? And that's when you see innovative things coming out of the Dash Master Network for incentives and other marketing plans.
Basically, at some point, it could be whichever coin has the best marketing. Ooh. I like to keep on setting up these different situations.
Yeah.
Just like trying to find different angles in which Dash comes out on top. I know that's not what you're doing, but to a certain extent, it looks like that.
I've only just remembered, Joel, last year we funded 2 different Ripple gateways. So Steve, Derrick, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I completely forgot about it just until you started talking about Ripple. And I believe this was part of the reason why we funded them. I believe one was an open source solution, and I forget what the name of the other one was. If anyone's in the live chat now,
it was GateHub.
Was it GitHub?
GateHub.
Oh, GateHub. Okay. Yeah, and I remember Core actually chipped in because the two proposals were up at the same time and they were competing against each other. And I think that the community consensus was, let's just fund both. Let's just do it. And so my point being is that I would be happy to see them utilized, and perhaps they're being utilized now. We should probably follow up on that, Joel. And
well, it's really not the gateways that I'm thinking. That's kind of like old world Ripple. Ripple has changed a lot, and what they're really focused on is this protocol level that doesn't even require the XRP at all. So basically,
what is XRP for?
Well, first of all, about this protocol, they're working with the W3C web standards bodies, and they even have chairs of different web standards. They're working with Mozilla and Facebook and Google and other people involved in the payments world in W3C to get this interledger standard and to get standards adopted for web browsers so that people like Dash can have standardized checkout in web browsers. So the interledger people at Ripple are awesome, and they've spawned off other companies that are involved in this interledger. Now, what's the point of XRP? First of all, it's Bitcoin without mining, and so secondly, to get the creators of XRP really rich. But third, to make a decentralized exchange, which was the first of its kind and is actually quite remarkable. And now what they're using it most for, and this is pretty awesome, they're using it to provide liquidity for cross-currency conversions. So like Dash uses their inflation, which the inflation technically is called something called seigniorage, which means it's the value that accrues to the creators of new money. So in the Fed world, like the military industrial complex gets the seigniorage, right? They get all the giant contracts with all the new money. And in the Dash world, it's the different projects. It's the Dash core team, it's AnyPay, it's Spark, it's all these awesome projects. They get the benefits of the new money. But in Ripple, they use the XRP to lower the liquidity cost of cross-border payments. So basically, they use the new money to subsidize cross-border payments between banks, and it makes it very cheap, which makes those banks want to acquire XRP, which increases the value, which allows them to lower the cost of liquidity again. And because XRP, it's a blockchain native asset, so it's like Dash where there's no counterparty, and it actually allows banks to free up capital. And so in the past, the way it currently works with banks is if you want to wire money from one bank to another around the world, you actually have to outlay capital to each bank that you want to be able to wire money to. And then it's basically like parked all around. So these banks have cash parked all around in their competitors' bank accounts. And that's totally locked up. They can't use it at all, but they need it to provide liquidity for cross-border payments. And so like smaller banks, they rely on larger banks often to provide this liquidity. So like smaller, medium banks, they're paying huge sums to big banks like HSBC and other large, giant Fed-style banks. With XRP, they no longer have to outlay capital to each bank because they can hold one asset that they can send to any bank. And the idea is that if they all hold XRP, then they're liquid among the whole network. And it's just like Dash. You know, if you have Dash, then you're liquid among all Dash users. You can instantly send money to any public key, any address. And so that's really the purpose of XRP, is to reduce liquidity costs and eliminate the requirement for outlaying capital to different banks. And it's awesome. Like, it's so good, and it's unstoppable, it's uncensorable, and it's cryptographically secure. And it's helping small banks get out from underneath the national bank system, and it's helping banks who are facing like border restrictions send money, and it's reducing the power of large giant banks who benefit from the euro and the yen yuan and the dollar, and so the giant monopoly banks are losing out because XRP is allowing the smaller banks to go direct. Like we can send Dash direct. Now these small banks can send direct without the big guys. And so that's a long explanation, but XRP is pretty great.
Yeah, so it would be interesting to see someone make a T-shirt that says XRP weaken the Fed, Dash end the Fed. One before the next.
Yeah, well, how do you feel about that? Because, like, Stephen, you're saying, like, essentially that's just supporting the legacy banking system. And I'm guessing more on probably Derrick's side, as a activist, you've probably been pro end the Fed for quite a while. So when you hear about Ripple in this nature and being a proponent of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, how do you feel? Does that make you feel uneasy, or does it make you feel excited for the future?
I'm very happy for any time that individuals increase their own personal freedom. So if that's your level, if you're a bank and you make your money more liquid and you don't have to rely on the larger institutions, that's good. It's a step in the right direction, and I support that. So yeah, I'm not uneasy about people who want to still be in the legacy system. I've ended the Fed in my own life by using cryptocurrency, and I don't use XRP to pay for lunch. I use Dash. But if other people are using, if banks are using XRP to move money around, that has a real impact on real human lives. That's making their lives better today, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, well,
plus banking isn't bad. Like, customers voluntarily want to store their money in safe places often, and often they want return because they want professionals to invest their money and give them a dividend. And that's what banking traditionally provides. Now, the thing that is the worst is monopolistic central banking and legal tender
as well.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. If it's voluntary, more power to you. If your customers say, yeah, go ahead and fractionally reserve and give me a higher yield on my deposits. But the monopolistic legal tender laws that give all the power to one bank, one private bank, the Fed and all of its subsidiaries, that is wrong. And now smaller banks can avoid the Fed. And so it's great. And I think also it's XRP has a finite supply. Like, it's not, they can't create more of it. It's just so much better than the Fed, in my opinion.
Yeah, but hang on. So this is turned into a Ripple podcast. So I'm not an expert on Ripple, and I know there's a lot of confusion with that. One thing I see that's been circulated quite a bit, I think this originated from Box Mining, the YouTuber, and he was just saying that people buying XRP are missing the point, because where they've separated off, it's the banks integrating Ripple, and the banking system Ripple won't be using that XRP. So when you're hearing about all these banking integrations with Ripple, they're two different things. But I don't feel
so. That's the next step, is moving them into the XRP world. So basically, they went to the banks, and the bank said, "We're not using this stuff. This is too new. We're going to go ahead and integrate." They can still save money because the Ripple technology is superior to the traditional system. But yeah, people buying XRP are simply speculating. They're not going to be using it. I know some people who do use it to pay people, but it's not what it's meant for. It's not what it's meant for. It's not cash like Dash is.
No.
Have you ever bought coffee with XRP?
I'm probably the only one, but
I just want to bring it to the real world and say there are people who try to move money internationally, and it can take days and be very painful and expensive. And often there are people who they shouldn't be incurring these costs, especially when a better technology exists. So if Bitcoin can't do that for them, or Dash can't do that for them today, and they still rely on the banks or their family, a real world example, like someone's working here and they want to move money to India, and it takes several days and it's very expensive. Why should they suffer the traditional banking system, when XRP can make it, you know, a matter of minutes rather than days, and make it pennies rather than several $100s.
Yeah, that's an interesting kind of discussion, because right now moving money between banks, because everyone uses a bank, you know, most not person company excluded, but most people use banks. So moving money between banks is, you know, a nightmare. So you can have Ripple help make that easier. What happens when you're going to be your own bank? Well, then you still have to move money between your own selves, your own personal banks, with Interledger. So it seems like this is one of those things where I don't believe in the, like, what people call maximalism. I understand, like, I'm under your definition, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, definitely. But under the, like, the only one coin, well, my favorite coin is the only thing that works and everything has to be on, that whole nonsense is because there's so much that, for example, Dash doesn't even want to touch, doesn't want to do, that can be done, that, you know, Dash shouldn't, honestly, has no business doing, should not be doing, should not be wasting his time.
It's two different market segments, and they're both good. I mean, I think Dash is more exciting, and I love cash. So
I haven't verified this, but I saw someone either tweet or comment earlier that in the coin market cap, top 100 coin, well, in the top 100, 15 of them are coins, 85 are tokens. And it just shows you how much has changed. I mean, I've not verified those numbers, but it kind of sounds about right. I mean, it's 2017 was really crazy.
It was something else.
And we just had so many projects out there. And, you know, all you need to do, actually, even when you look in the top 10 and you just think about user and merchant adoption, you know, real world use, there's not a lot there, really, is there, to support this? And we're living in interesting times. So, like, to go back to what we were saying earlier, we are in this transitional phase, and I think what we do over the next couple of years isn't just focusing on actually just getting that adoption, but it's that usability and user friendliness is actually really going to help do it, because if our grandmothers can't use it, then no one's going to use it. And I'm actually happy that you mentioned about bank accounts, because some people do worry about security, and this is why I'm happy to hear people talk about multi-signature wallets. We had a Dash Embassy, Dash funded organization, on the podcast about a month ago, and they were talking about banks in Germany, and they're just saying, well, you know, if people want to leave their money in a bank, perhaps in the future, you know, they could hold one key, you could hold one key, and then you could have another one for safety. And so, like, if you wanted to spend something, so, you know, who knows what the future's going to have, but it's exciting to have these conversations and to actually think about real world use and not just speculating. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. No. Carry on. Let me collect my thoughts.
The proof is in the pudding, Joel, because here's the thing. We've been talking about lots of cryptocurrency projects. You are unbanked yourself, yet you are using Dash to live, and you have to live on cryptocurrency right now. You don't have a choice, and you're choosing to use Dash, and you're choosing to use Dash for a reason, and that reason is because
I have no other choice. I mean, I literally, that's what happened when everything came out, when we had the problem, when we had the initial issues with the BTC. I just said, I can't live all off of this anymore. I got to pick something else. And so I just started going down the list. And so the first one I stopped at, where I'm like, that's, you know, obviously not BTC anymore, because it was too expensive, it was becoming a personal hardship to try to use it, was the first one I could actually stop at was Dash. And there was a couple of Dash accepting debit cards at the time. There was a couple of bill pay type services, a couple things, but that was literally the first thing. Probably now, because the ecosystem's gotten so rich and spread out so much, and there's, you know, there's a lot of other options now that you could conceivably try to live on. But like, when I made that choice, it was like, it's Dash or I give up and beg Bank of America for my account back.
Yeah, and Derrick, you're unbanked as well, correct?
No, I have bank accounts. I've
okay.
You know, I just choose to use them as little as possible. I had an emotional reaction when Joel said he had no choice, because I'm like, come on, man, you've got all the choices, you got tons of choices, and you choose Dash because it's the best.
Yeah. are you talking about?
Like,
Yes,
I
I
use
continue
Dash
to
more often
choose.
than any. What?
That's the thing. I continue to choose Dash now because it's the best. I initially chose it because that was the only realistic option.
I understand what you're saying now.
Well, and beyond, you hate the regulated state. Like obviously that was an option. But
the only reasonable option to continue living completely unbanked and only on P2P digital currency.
Well, Mark, you mentioned that a bunch of the top 100 are tokens. That's really interesting because these are like new kind of companies, and Dash is digital cash, but really it's also a company, right? It's a 21st century new age style corporation of sorts, and it has a new kind of governance structure that is not state legal governance. It's in the code, and it's a company, and so the price of Dash could be seen as the price of the shares in the Dash corporation, and so a lot of these other coins are companies. Also, you can own them, right? You can own shares in them by getting the tokens, but they might not be cash. Right. So, like, does it make sense for Coin Market Cap to even list them? I don't know, but it's just we've moved so far from cash to all kinds of companies that you can own with cryptographic keys. So it's really interesting.
I think that's a really fair comment. I mean, one of the hot topics right now is people talking about stable coins, and we're seeing some of the high performance are actual tokens for exchanges, like Binance tokens gone quite high up now. Tether's in the top 10. So I agree. Like traditionally, we would look at CoinMarketCap focusing on the coins. Like, what was it, in December last year? I think we was like number 4 in CoinMarketCap. A lot's happened since then, obviously, but yeah, you're right. A lot of these, I mean, I confess to you, I'm 100% Dash. I don't hide that. I've never really liked the idea of ICOs. I'm sure there are a lot of good projects out there, but you know, at the same time, we all have our day jobs and our time to focus on certain things. And for me, Dash has just always been the most exciting thing, because I guess where I am biased, but where we do have that treasury cycle once a month, it never gets old. It's like Christmas every month, because there's always new projects. There's always something to look forward to. And where we have no leader, it's kind of like a living entity within itself. So even if everyone that's essentially paid as a contractor right now just disappears, it still continues to live on with new people. It's like you can't kill it. And so there's something about that I really like, because beforehand, and I appreciate new people to cryptocurrency in the last year or two probably won't appreciate this, but I think previously it was too focused on individuals, key personalities. I mean, a large part of it today still is, but this whole leadership thing, I think it really is problematic, because once you start following people, you get stuck into groupthink, and then you stop thinking for yourself. And it's actually really interesting to have podcasts like this and talk to people like yourselves, where even though this is a Dash podcast, we can talk about Ripple and its ideas and what is the bigger picture in the future. And we don't have to hide anything. We can put everything on the table. So this is how we make progress. And I'm excited about the future. So I want to finish off on like one happy, positive thing. So those that don't know, Derrick and Stephen run the Free State Bitcoin shop in Portsmouth as well, and I had the pleasure of visiting it. And also, if you do swing on by, they said they got the Bitcoin tour, but you can also do the Dash tour, because it's the same businesses. Definitely, if you're in the States or you're visiting and you go to New Hampshire, definitely check out Portsmouth, because they've got so many businesses. But if you actually go to the Free State Bitcoin shop as well, they actually have like the AnyPay system there, kind of like on like a demo display as well. So that was really cool for me to check out, and just all the merchandise and swag that you have in there. But talking about that, there was one particular T-shirt that I really liked, and I've spoken to Derrick about this before, so I think he knows what's coming up. And it was the famous Bitcoin roller coaster image. And there's like a sublimation T-shirt, and it had Prince.
You want a Dash version, don't you?
So I want a Dash version. And then Derrick told me he knows the guy that did the design.
Yeah, he was at Marcus. Did you run into him?
Oh no,
I ran into him on my way to my hotel. There, you were there. You must have been working too hard at the Dash table then.
So was this guy's name? Was it Marcus or something? Or
Yes.
Yeah, Marcus Connor, he's of brainlesstales.com. He produced a webcomic every day for like 9 years, and he created the famous Bitcoin roller coaster GIF.
Wow.
Yeah, what's funny about that? I would very much appreciate not just the Dash coin, because I have seen a Dash version of that just literally you take the little Bitcoin coin and just color it blue and say Dash. Yee. But I would definitely like to have like a Dash shaped and logoed roller coaster car with a little miniature Evan Duffield riding up and down. And speaking of which, of whom, not directly, but Evan Duffield, the founder of Dash, sort of vanished a while ago because he was focusing on Dash Labs. He said, I'm going to leave the core team. My vision's set forward. The core team seems to agree. They're going to implement it. Ryan Taylor is the official CEO of the core team. He's got things handled. And then he just disappeared. And he said, I'm working on this thing called Dash Labs, where I'm going to do long-term research like GPU accelerators and custom open source masternode hardware and stuff like that. He's just talking about all this cool stuff. And then I just didn't hear from him for like a year and a half. And everyone's just like, did he just like go off on a beach? Is he dead? And then I hear from a guy who works for him and says, hey guys, Evan's alive and well. He's doing great. We're doing a bunch of amazing work. And there's a bunch of us here now, all paid for by, as Evan said, 80% of his personal wealth. He just set aside to like work on projects. And he says, I'm going to give an interview to Dash Force News and tell them everything cool we've been up to. And that's going to happen in about an hour. So stay tuned.
How exciting.
We'll hopefully publish it on Monday, but it's going to be lit, yo.
Right on. They're all in Hong Kong, right? That's where they decided to start that Dash Labs.
Probably yes. I do know that some of the employees are all over the world, though. That's for sure.
Awesome. Hey, thanks guys for having us. I had a great time.
Yeah, no problem. It was a good time. It's I like the backdrop. I know some people who were there in the early days of Dash get a trigger when they see the Monero logo because they remember being relentlessly trolled, but I see it for what it is. It's just art. And then actually I asked and I said, are there any cool kick-ass Dash posters out there? And then someone says, well, what about this one on your wall right here? This is a bitograph, which starts from the Dash Genesis block all the way down. And I was like, and then I went to their site and they're closed down. They don't make those anymore. So if you're out there in the, what is the Dash version of Ether? Out there in the Ether, out there in the Duff somewhere, and you're a cool artist, you want to make some awesome Dash related art, I will buy a lot of your stuff. Mark will buy a lot of your stuff. I'm sure the AnyPay folks will start throwing up some Dash posters there once there's some cool ones to actually put out there. All right.
Hell yeah, I can't wait. Send us the Dash art. We'll put it up everywhere.
Well, even more reason for you to speak to Marcus, Derrick. That's why I was going to ask you a favor to say, like, instead of like the Bitcoin roller coaster, could we have like the Dash coin like on a rocket going to the moon or something, and we can get some t-shirts printed up? If you can make that happen, I will love you a long time. That would be amazing. Because the thing is, if we kind of imitate it, the same thing, people just say it's a knockoff copy. If you have the person that originally did the Bitcoin one do it, then it makes sense. And we all have moved on as a community, as a movement since then. So, and if you know him quite well, I would really appreciate that, because that would be so helpful for me on Twitter and everything else. So
Consider
please make it happen. Yes.
Consider it done. I will ask him immediately following this interview.
Brilliant results. The dashing in is a happening, people. And excellent. Well, the podcast has gone on much longer than anticipated. Normally, guys, we try to aim for like 45 minutes, but we've never been able to keep that. It always goes to like an hour, 10 minutes. But this conversation has been so great, and we've covered so many topics that it's just gone on. And I've only just seen what the time is now.
I mean, honestly, this is what happens when you have people who are OGs in the ecosystem, been there forever.
It's been fun, guys. I'm afraid we have to go.
Yeah, no problem.
Have a nice day. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Do you want me to do the outro now?
Yes. So yeah, after party time.
Yes,
go for
we'll
it.
have to do. All right. There's this awesome place in the wonderful Dash decentralized community called Dash Talk. It's a Discord channel. You guys should know about it. If you don't know about it, well, if you didn't know about it already, well, you know it now. No one will get my joke. And if you don't want to get the long, annoying invite link, stay-he.com, which was not the initial, it was not sequestered for that purpose. Mark's been sitting on that one for a long time. And then now that's just pivoting away straight to this awesome place. So you get into the Dash Talk Discord. You start asking, where the after party at? We'll plug you in. You get to hang out with us, anyone else who ends up being there. It's 10 slots at a time. People come and go. Sometimes it lasts pretty long. It's probably not going to, I'm not going to be there very late because I got the interview with Dash Labs coming. So get in there as always. Like, share, subscribe. This is an audio format. iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all of the above. Subscribe to the podcast. We've been going for a long time. We always have crazy, interesting people from Bitcoin and Dash OGs to libertarian heroes wearing bow ties to true warriors of the cage to people like Chael Sonnen, whatever he qualifies as.
He's fighting. He's fighting this weekend, isn't he?
Yes, tomorrow night. There's two. We'll get into that later. Anyway, sorry for boring you guys all, but this has been a very entertaining and great podcast. See you next week.
Yeah. Okay. Well, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and make sure you check out dashforcenews.com next week for Joel's article on Dash Labs. I can't wait. I'm super excited, and I imagine you are as well. I hope you found this to be informative. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay positive, stay humble, and most importantly, stay dashy.